Hello, everyone. I am Tanya Cunningham with Tanya Homes Group, and welcome once again to my Realtor Hat series. So I love every interview that I do, and this is no exception. And I want to ask you to really pay attention to this one. If you know someone who's looking to buy or sell a home, or if you yourself have been wanting to buy or sell a home and you're just wondering why this market feels so weird and different, and you'd like some options, especially financing is a part of that buying process. Because I'm going to be speaking with Dan Longman from NFM Lending. And we are going to have an amazing conversation about a specific type of financing that can help buyers who are on the fence and help them get towards their goals sooner than later. Because I see a lot of people on the fence right now. I see a lot of questions. I hear a lot of uncertainty and fear, because there's so much going on in our world, in our economy right now, that's making people feel unsure of what to do. And this is just an option, an opportunity where you may have thought that there was no opportunity. And Dan has a lot of experience, many years, and I'm looking forward to this conversation, not only for me to be educated, but for you also, because that is the main goal. So lean in and let's hear what Dan has to share that may benefit you or someone you know. Hi, Dan. It's so great to have you here.
Awesome. It's great to be here, Tanya. Thanks for having me.
Of course, welcome. I've been looking forward to this conversation because we've known each other for a long time. And this is such an interesting market. I was thinking to myself when you and I talked the other day, I was like, would you like to come on and have us have a conversation about this market? Because I have found the most interesting questions about this market coming to me over any other market. And I've been doing this just like you for a long time. And when people are asking me, so how's the market? What do I end up answering them with words like, or sentences like, it's different, it's challenging, it's interesting. I'm using all words like that because I think it's all of those things. And I've just found it to be a unique market, because we had such, after the 2009 crash, things started to work their way up. Things were going really well in terms of how the real estate market was, in my opinion. COVID came. There were a lot of speculations about COVID, having a negative effect on the market. And man, did it boom, definitely in South Florida after COVID, or I would say even during, because we still found ways to sell. And then I would say 2023 is when things got a little interesting. And it's been interesting ever since then. And here we are in 2025, where I find that people have been on the fence when it comes to buying. Sellers have had an expectation that hasn't been met because they were looking at 2022 and how it was, and there were sales definitely slowed down for 2023 and 2024, with only 4 million sales in the whole country, which was the lowest since 1995, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why I felt it was interesting, where buyers, there are people out there who are on the fence who don't really want to be on the fence. And there's sellers who need their home sold, who would like to still achieve what they're out to achieve, but not give their house away. So this market is interesting. Some people might call it a buyer's market, and yet at the same time, they're not really as many people buying as you would expect, because interest rates are not nice and juicy.
Yes. 100%. Not yet, at least, right?
Right. Yeah. So I've said all of that to say, because I don't want to do all the talking. I just wanted to set it up for why I wanted to have this conversation. I wanted to have you jump in and tell me what your thoughts are on the market today, and how can we help those buyers out there who may not be 100% qualified, or they are qualified but they're still not really loving their monthly payment? How can we help them do what they really want to do now and help them achieve their goal and help our sellers who want to sell their home achieve their goal as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, thanks again for having me. And yeah, you used the word interesting and challenging, and I would echo those same words for this type of market. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, we're kind of in uncharted waters, right? I think especially down here in South Florida area with real estate, we're used to these extremes sometimes where it could be really high, go low, but we're used to a very quick recovery or bounce back. This market, like you mentioned, because of what happened with COVID, it's been kind of stuck, and it's interesting because you're like, when are we coming out of this? When are rates going to go back down? And I think that uncertainty has kind of like stalled the market and really kind of put a pause on some buyers out there, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing a lot, is they're just not sure if they should go now or home's going to like go lower. And, you have all this uncertainty. And they always say, right, with real estate, don't try to time the market, just spend time in the market.
Yeah.
And I tell first time home buyers all the time as well. There's a stat out there, they call it the 40X Club, that people that own real estate compared to people who rent, and you can go back over a long period of time here, people that own versus people that rent have a 40 times greater net worth. So
Wow.
what does that tell you? It's real estate's a good investment. Yes, you might go through pockets of a little down market or what have you, or higher interest rates like we're doing. But overall, in the long run, it's been a great asset to have in your portfolio and to obviously own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you asked, that was the first part, but the second question, like, what can we do now, right? Like,
Yeah.
what can we do to sellers? Because the reality is, you're right. You mentioned 4 million, units. We've been stuck in there for a couple years now. We're like entering the third year, or,
Yeah.
almost more than halfway through the third year. Usually we're like in the 5 to 6 million. So this is definitely a decline. I'd say we don't have a crash in prices. We have a crash in units, transactions. So
Yeah.
what do? We got a lot of headwinds. We're dealing with sellers, some of them sitting on 3% rates, right? The lock-in effect, and they don't want to move. You got buyers that are dealing with high price, high rates. So in times like this, you do have to get a little creative, but you have to remind people of the benefits of owning real estate, right? The
Hmm.
difference between owning and renting. But the creative part is where sometimes we can come in, right? With, the lending aspect and realtors, like, how do we work together to show sellers and buyers that this is still a good investment and something that, people want to continue to transact? I shared with you a little bit when we talked about how new construction, has done pretty well. They're
Yes.
starting to hit a little, yeah, starting to hit a little slowdown now. But part of that is they've been offering these lower interest rates.
Yeah.
They're doing permanent buy downs, or they're offering temporary rate buy downs. And that's very attractive to a buyer, right? If
Absolutely.
you're going to throw a 4.99 out there, or a 5%, or whatever the case is, you're going to get more traction, and it's been pretty successful with builders. So sellers kind of have to piggyback. They got to see hey, this is what's working for builders. How do we do that? And that's where I think that needs to be kind of advertised more. Sellers got to be a little bit more creative in what they put out there so they can get that buyer excited with that lower payment.
And I think that that's really a great point, because if the builders are winning, I mean, you said it's slowing down a little bit, but you've been seeing where the builders are winning, and it's because the interest rate is lower. And sellers need to piggyback on that, who aren't a builder. They just want to sell their own home. So we, as the realtor, you, the lender, we can come together and say, okay, how do we make sure we broadcast this so that, or the buyers out there who are on the fence, who don't feel like, or they may not even, they just feel like they can't do it, how do we make sure that they are aware of this? And we talk to our sellers about this, because at the same time, maybe they can contribute in some way with a seller's contribution, but also a buyer could become really interested in how that buy down works. So could you explain, use the terminology that a regular buyer out there could really relate to, and explain what it looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I mean, look, like we said, for buyers right now, it's been difficult. High prices, high rates.
Yeah,
They're looking for some relief.
right.
And builders have tapped into this very well. So no reason why sellers can't do this as well. And we talked a little bit about, but for a seller, instead of just doing a price reduction, which I know is the first thing everyone says, your house is sitting to a price reduction. I'm not saying that price reductions don't work; they certainly can. But if you took that funds, that credit that a seller was going to give in the form of a lower price, and instead gave it to the buyer in the form of a lower rate, that's going to
Mhm.
definitely gain more traction, and it's going to help the buyer more. It really is. That buyer now is going to look at their payment and be like, okay, great, I can have a lower payment. So how it works, the most popular product out there right now, and what sellers can do immediately, and they can do it, your clients can do this on each individual listing that they have, is a temporary rate buy down,
Okay.
right? And the most popular one is a 2-1 buy down. There's three sectors of it. You can do a 1-0 buy down, a 2-1 buy down, and a 3-2-1. I'm just going to focus real quick on the 2-1 since it's the most popular.
Okay.
But but what that is let's say rates are hovering in the mid sixes, somewhere around there, give or take. Let's just use a round number. We'll say 6.5. Rates are sitting at 6.5. If a seller offers a 2-1 buy down, that buyer now can get into that property, and in year one, they would have a 4.5% interest rate, right? So 2% lower than the going rate. So that's going to give them immediate relief in year one. Their
So that's
payments are
what
going to
the
be,
two means.
that's what the two means. Exactly. It's
Got it.
going 2% lower
Got
in the
it.
first year. After the first year, so starting in the 13th month, it would go 1% lower. So it'd go from that 4.5 to now to 5.5, and they would have that for another year. So that's what the one part of it means, right? So
Okay.
2, 1. And then starting in year three, it'd go back to that 30-year fixed rate of 6.5%. Now, the reason why this is so helpful for buyers now is that's giving them major relief in year one, and then even more relief, not more relief, but some substantial relief in year two as well. That gives the market enough time for rates to come down,
Right.
right? So if rates come down in the next year or two, that buyer might not ever even have to go to that 6.5. Maybe they
Right.
end up refinancing, because rates drop below 6, whatever it is. We can't predict the future, but it at least gives them some immediate relief. Now, the other thing too is you got to think about the actual buyer. If this is maybe a first-time home buyer that's just starting off in their job, maybe they're not making as much in the first year of their job, or they
Right.
have like a commission or bonus that's going to kick in year one, year two. Once again, it gives them that relief now, and then maybe the next 2-3 years when the rate goes a little higher, they're in a better position financially,
Right.
right? They generate a little bit more income, bonus, what have you, commission, better pay, etc. So I think this is definitely a tool. It's been around for a little while, but markets like these are when we start talking about them more. And I think this could be a win-win for both sellers because it doesn't really cost them a whole lot out of pocket. And, we can run numbers on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely, like I said, the advantage to the buyer of having that lower rate and payment for the first couple years.
All right. I really love that you explained that because, we're talking about rates being about 6.5%. And because you and I have been doing this for so long, we know that for us, 6.5% when we're looking at it is not an astronomical interest rate by any means, right?
No.
I
Yes.
mean, we know about in the 80s when it was 18% and, and some crazy numbers. So we know
Yes.
what's possible. And we know that, I mean, for me, when it was at 3% and 2% and even 4%, we realized that some of that was artificially low and that wasn't permanent, but people are still thinking that's coming back anytime soon, or they're just feeling that they missed out and they're going to wait for it to come back again, and that may be a long wait, right, Dan?
Yes.
So I love that we're talking about this because even though 6.5% might be normal to you and I, at the end of the day, it's not attractive to a buyer who just saw 4% and 3% not too long ago. So
Correct.
so this gives them an opportunity, and I want to talk about the fact that because it's not permanent, when you qualify this person, this buyer, they are still qualified at the higher rate, the fixed, the 30-year rate. Like, say for instance, first year 4.5%, second year 5.5%. Let's say that job that you talked about that they thought that they were going to get more money doesn't happen. That they got qualified based on the job that they had at the time that they got qualified for the 6.5. So when you looked at their income and you looked at their expenses, they were still qualified. So I'm trying to look at the worst case scenario by asking this question. If somebody were doing this, and let's say nothing changed, and now year three comes along and it's 6.5%, that savings that they had for those first 2 years could have been used to put more money away, could have been used if they did have a credit card debt that was inside of that, they could pay that off. They could, if they had a car loan that they still got qualified for this loan for, they could use some of that savings to take care of that, so that let's say year three comes, 6.5% is the interest rate, and interest rates have not reduced significantly, and they're stuck with this 6.5, which you and I know is still a good rate.
Yeah.
They could still be that 2 years could have made a huge difference because of this 2-1 buy down. Am I right?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
And Tanya, you mentioned a lot of things, going on, whether it's saving up, paying off credit card debt, all of that. And what about even stuff for the house? Let's say something goes, a hot water heater goes, or they wanted to redo a bathroom. They can do that in the first couple of years, right? With
Yeah.
this additional savings.
Yeah.
But yes, to just reiterate your point, this is a 30-year fix at that 6.5 or whatever the rate ends up being. You're just getting that benefit, that, temporary rate lower for just those 2 years. But this is not an arm where it
Right.
can, go up higher after the 2 years or go even past the 6.5. No, no, no. It's fixed at that 30-year. They are qualified off that 30-year, 6.5 rate. So yes, to
Right.
your point, if it's the status quo, nothing changes, they still should be able to afford it because that's what they were qualified off of.
Awesome. And
Yeah,
by ARM, you mean an adjustable rate mortgage, just for anybody who's watching us and they don't know what ARM means. It's an
correct.
adjustable rate mortgage, which I find to be scary because, the adjustable rate means, wherever the rate is at that time, it's going to adjust. And I've had a family member in an adjustable rate mortgage situation where they bought a house. They didn't use me, and they bought a house and they got an adjustable. I just want to say that. And they called me when their mortgage payment literally doubled because
Yeah.
of the adjustable rate. So that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, it is a fixed rate for 30 years, but you have this 2-1 buy down period where you have those first 2 years of the rate being lower.
That is correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. And
Much
and
different.
real quick, one thing, because I get this question a lot in the 2-1. Someone will say, hey, well, let's say I'm in year two and the rate is now 5.5%, but rates drop to 5 or 4.5. I can't refinance? I have to wait the 2 years? And no, you don't have
Okay.
to wait. You can refinance at any time. So
Okay.
there's no prepayment penalty or anything like that. You don't have to wait the 2 years. You just get the advantage of the lower rate, as long as it still is an advantage, right? As long as rates haven't dropped lower, which I doubt they will, but you never know. So they could refinance at any time. And I think that's important to mention too.
Right, right. And it gives them some time. It allows them to jump into the market if they, because some people are saying, if only this and this, I could do it now. Maybe this is the thing that could help them to do it now and not be on the fence, because they have that opportunity to have it lower for a period of time. And I've been doing this a long time. And yes, I've known about the 2-1 buy down, heard about it. I'd never had a client actually utilize it. And rates were, it's now more than ever where people are just weary of rates, because when we came out of the crash of 2008 and 9, rates were, reasonable, and they stayed reasonable for a long time. And then when COVID came, they became unreasonably good.
Crashed. Yeah. Yes. Unprecedented. Yes, I
Yeah.
know.
So people aren't really haven't this is a time, I think, with the market being what we call weird, challenging, and interesting, where we can become creative. Because I am seeing this as a time where we need to be creative.
Yes. And you know, one thing I do want to tell like buyers out there is that rates sitting at 6.5, like we talked about, historically not high at all. We've been hovering in this 7%. I mean, we hit 8% in 2023.
Remember?
So to be in the mid sixes is actually really good. But I do want to say when rates drop to 6 or under, it's going to fuel a lot of activity. And so if people are waiting for like prices to come down and things like that, just know, and the reason I say this 6%, marker, we've tested it twice.
Okay.
And in the last 18 months, we've tested this 6% threshold twice, and applications spiked both times. Like it was like we hit 6. The problem was it was so short lived. It was like 2-3 weeks, you get a flood of applications, and then rates went back up for various different reasons in the market. And then people are like, oh, what happened? What? So my whole point though, if rates come down to 6, and I think we're on our way there, especially, with the Fed and what they're probably going to end up doing in the beginning of 2026. Yeah, so you could see a lot more buyers that have been sitting on the fence jump in. And that's why, like, what we're talking about now, this 2-1, if you can get in now before they actually drop and you have more people back into the market, yeah, then you'll be at an advantage. You've already got in, you're not competing, and all that different stuff. We know what can happen when it becomes a seller's market.
Yeah, and I think that people don't realize that they're just waiting for that. Like you say, maybe 6% is their number, and the competition increases, and then the
Yes.
prices spike because there's more demand. And whatever they thought they could save with that 0.5%, they
Yep.
really actually don't save at all. They end up paying more because they really want that house, and that fear of missing out, that FOMO that we hear about comes in because now again, 5 people are offering on that, and they're trying to outbid, and then before they know it, they're paying more than they thought they were going to, and there was no savings at all. And that's
Yep.
what we see happening.
Yeah.
So that's why it's good to have this conversation now, because if you're waiting for that 0.5% or whatever it is, why not try this as an opportunity for you to get in now, and then pay attention to the market. And if it drops significantly, then yes, you can refinance if the numbers make sense. But when you think about your worst case scenario being X, which you'll know because you're getting that 30-year fix, then you can know what it looks like and you can plan accordingly. And if you have a plan that's really solid and you go by that plan, like let's say the plan is to save to remodel, to pay off the credit card debt that you still have, or the car loan or whatever, you could really win.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I really think that's possible. So I thank you for sharing that. And I think that now that we have this, and we're, I plan to share it, and I hope you share more. I'm going to be talking more with my sellers about how they can be the ones helping to contribute to this. And then buyers just looking about maybe because a buyer can, even if a seller isn't willing to do this, a buyer can do this too, right? If a seller is stuck on their price, but a buyer really wants that house, then they can actually the buyer can do this as well, right?
They can. And the buyer can even kind of pick and choose too. If the seller is giving a certain amount of credit, the buyer can say, you know what, I'm going to do a 1.0 buy down. I'll take some of that and buy down for, and then the rest I'm going to take towards my closing costs and prepaids.
I
So
like
you can
that.
do kind of like a hybrid type. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of options with it. It's just more of the seller willing to give a little, and then, but yes, the buyer can as well. Absolutely.
So it's just great for us to be in conversation with our buyers and our sellers about what's possible,
Yes.
and get them in that space of, hey, because I think a lot of people don't know about this, so it's,
Agreed.
yeah, so we get to educate them and talk to them about it, and see if they're, because somebody watching this right now may know of a friend or family member, even if it's not them, who wants to buy a house, or even a seller who has their house on the market for a long time and they haven't been able to sell, and they can say, hey, talk to Tanya and Dan about this.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to do something. You just can't sit around and wait, right?
And sit
So
around and wait. So, is there anything before we go, Dan, that you want to share for buyers to, really pay attention to right now? And you have your pulse on what's going on. You said that the rates might drop maybe by the end of this year or something. What do you want what buyers to really be clear on now so that they can make a decision, and even sellers?
yeah, well, buyers definitely. I mean, we always say you can't get pre-approved early enough. So I think buyers, whether you're going to buy now or even in the next 2-3 months, you should really be getting with your loan officer, your banker, whoever, and go through your finances and get pre-approved. Know what you can afford now. Because like we said, if rates do move down and you want to jump in and then you start the process, you're too late.
Yeah.
You are too late. So, and plus, it's just peace of mind, right? Wouldn't you love to know, like, oh, I've done all that. I've gotten the paperwork. And by the way, it's not really complicated. We can pre-approve you in 24 hours. It's not like this long, drawn-out process and you're going to get blood samples and all this different stuff. It's relatively easy, especially now, with technology. But it's peace of mind knowing, like, hey, I can afford this. So that way I can get with Tanya. She can take me out, when I'm ready. So absolutely with buyers, I would say get pre-approved early, know your finances going in. And then sellers, I mean, look, I would just say with sellers, you got to be a little realistic right now. This is not the same market it was just 2-3 years ago. Your neighbor that sold 2 years ago down the street, totally different market. So they just got to be a little bit more realistic. Real estate can change, and I think sellers have to realize that, and they have to realize what buyers, the challenges that they have. So, you got to be a little bit more accommodating right now in a market like this.
I'm glad you said that. And you said 2 years ago, their neighbor who sold. I think it's different from their neighbor who sold in January of this year.
True.
It's changed so much in the last 6, 7 months.
True.
So, it's not just 2 years or a year ago. And it's true, we as the agents have to be the ones that guide our clients, and we're the professionals, we're the ones with the experience and the knowledge, and be brave enough to have those conversations about how it was then and how it is now, so that they can be really clear on where we should be price wise, and talk
Yes.
about these possibilities of contributing. And then on the buyer's side, I do see that a lot, Dan. This feeling like it is a blood sample and it is a whole process to get qualified. And they're always like, I'm not ready now. They get nervous when you say, well, for us, we can't do anything with you in terms as a buyer until we know what you're qualified to purchase.
Right.
But they get a little scared about that because they think it's some long drawn out process. So I'm glad that you said that it's simple and you can get it done within 24 hours, because even if they just need to know where they are right now and they're not 100% ready, I feel like the pre-approval is important, or to have at least the conversation, depending on when they think they're going to be ready. Because I have found a lot of people think that they are ready and they're not. And a lot of people don't realize that even though their income is here, their credit might be here or their debt might be there. So it's important for them to really see where they are and what is possible. And sometimes you usually do a pre-approval, I'm thinking, for 90 days. Am I right? Is it still
Yeah.
90 days? And
Yes.
even if it were to expire, to reapprove them is not complicated either, is it, Dan?
No, not at all. It's just updating a couple documents. You never
Yeah.
have to fill out an application. And real quick on the pre-approval thing, because what I have found, I think this is where the reluctancy comes in a lot with people. They think like if they apply and it doesn't work out, that they go on some sort of list. Like they're blackballed or something, like you're on this list. No, that's it. And I don't think they realize it's a fluid process. Like it's like, making something and we're throwing ingredients in. It's not just like we're done. No, we can add a little here. Like you're fixing your credit, great. You're going to take another job, or you're increasing your assets and whatever. Like we can work together to get you ready. It's not just like you apply, you don't get approved and you're like done. No, not at all. But I get that a lot. There's this fear of, I don't want to apply because I don't think I'm going to qualify. I'm like, just apply and we'll work together on getting
Yeah.
you to qualify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want them to win.
Yes, we want you to win. It's not like we're sitting there going, oh, nope, you're on the list. Sorry, come back in a year. No, no, not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all.
we want them to win, and that's why we had this conversation. It's actually to help you out there, our audience, know that we want you to win. So please, we want you to reach out if you have any more questions. So Dan, this was a great conversation. Please tell our audience the best way for them to reach you.
Anything. Just put a Batman sign in the sky. No, really, just phone, text, email is the best way. I'm sure you'll have my information here, but either one. I have a great team that I work with. If I'm doing something like this with Tanya, they'll get it either by text or email. But
Yeah, all of that
all of the
information is going to be put here for you guys to reach out. So you'll
cool.
see that shortly. And I want to thank you because I know the years that we've known each other, the experience that you have, when people reach out to you, I know that they're in great hands in terms of you guiding them through the process with your team. So I'm looking forward to having some really creative conversations about being creative with our sellers and our buyers, and us really getting them off the fence because they really don't want to be on the fence, so that we can have them achieve their goals and dreams. So Dan, thank you so much for this. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for the education. I love it.
Well, Tanya, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I love the hat.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
But I really hope that you enjoyed that conversation, because even if you had heard about the 2-1 buy down or anything else that we discussed, there are some people who have heard of it and didn't understand it, because I know that from speaking with people, and I myself initially, when I heard about it the first time, needed to ask questions so I was clear. So I hope there's been some clarity now, and you can share this with people that you know who might be interested in purchasing a home, or they're selling a home and they haven't been able to sell it, and this might be a way for them as a seller to offer a concession in some form to the buyers out there who might be interested in their property. So please reach out to Dan so he can share more with you if you have more questions, or if you'd like to take advantage of this or someone you know does. So his number is 954-602-9880. You can also text him directly at 954-438-3776, and his email address is dlongman@nfmlending.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. For buying or selling a home, or have a friend or family member who is, send them to Tanya, because we wear the hat to bring you the facts.